Pokemon is a franchise that needs no introduction. A franchise worth more than Marvel, Star Wars, DC, Mario. It's literal older brother franchise or parent. I don't know how you would classify the video game franchise hierarchy in Nintendo, but Pokemon is the most profitable franchise there ever has been. Now, one aspect of Pokemon that's always been my interest was the regions. Now, why the regions in particular? Well, it's where we explore, it's where we have our story, it's where everything takes place of beating the evil team or catching the legendary. But I'm going to talk about basically my thoughts on the regions and also give you the fact of how many times we've appeared in each region, starting with Kanto. Kanto is the region that started it all with the base games. How many times are we in Kanto? Now, this is not including stuff like Stadium, but I will include the virtual consoles for the 3DS. So, in Kanto, we have been there 20 times. Don't believe me? We got red, green, blue, yellow, gold, silver, crystal. Remember, Gen 2 games go back to Gen 1, after the post game, technically. Fire Red, Leaf Green. The remakes, Heart Gold and Soul Silver. The remakes of Gen 2. Then we go to the virtual console games of Red, Blue, Green and Yellow, which all got virtual console games. Gold, Silver and Crystal also got their virtual console games. And let's go Pikachu and let's go Eevee. Now, if you don't want to include those virtual console games for this count, it would be 13 times we've been in Kanto. And the reason I don't really include stuff like Stadium 2, it's more or less down to preference on how I'd see it. I see them more as side games that are optional using it, while the virtual console games are ports of the original game, but with minor differences and tweaks, allowing you to transport them from transporter to home and all that stuff. But anyway, how do I feel about the Generation 1 region of Kanto? Kanto is kind of bland in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, it's got amazing structure with all the towns linking up that you can go from one town to another town, and then you can end up in the same town if you kind of go in a circle with the way the pathways are rounded around. But Kanto is one of my least favorite regions. We've been there too many times and I don't find it that interesting in terms of design. But I can't help to love it, the fact that it started, well, it's the starting region of this gaming franchise, which I've loved for so much. Johto. Johto is the second region, which comes from the games Gold and Silver. Now, we appear in this region 8 times, which is a lot smaller number compared to the 20 times of the previous games. Now, once again, I'm going to include the virtual consoles. So, we have Gold, Silver, Crystal, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and Gold Virtual Console, Silver Virtual Console, and Crystal Virtual Console. Now my thoughts on Johto. I actually think Johto is one of the best regions. Yeah, I'm gonna say it, right? I really like Gold and Silver and Crystal. I also really like Heart Gold and Soul Silver. They were such great games. My only issues is the Kanto going back to. As I've kind of stated, I don't like Kanto. But I don't like Kanto when it's minimized Kanto. Other than that, I feel like a lot of the decks in this game, if I was to talk about it, has some of my favorite Pokemon. But at the same time, I also just want to talk about the fact that generally, I just love the concept of these games. And I love a lot what they brought to the table. And I think their regions may be a bit boring, but are quite interesting and are easier to play. Hoenn. Up next we have Hoenn, which is the 3rd generation region. It is the region that hosted into the games of Ruby and Sapphire. Now, Hoenn is quite interesting because it also was one of the first games to have the demos for the remakes of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, but for sanctity, I'm not going to count the demos because ORAS demo, all you can do is like try a bit of the Mega Evolution and transfer Pokemon over. So let's start off where Hoenn appears 5 times. Alright? You have Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire. And that's pretty much it for the region, how many times it appears in the game, which makes me a bit upset because I wish we got an Emerald remake. Okay, but let's talk about Hoenn. It actually is, basically, if it wasn't for another region, it would be my favorite region in all of Pokemon games. Hoenn is great, and I don't care if there's too much water, you know, as that's what people always have some issue with the Gen 3 games. Too much water. I think it adds to the characters. Without the water, we wouldn't have the Mirage Island, the sunken ship. We wouldn't have so much, you know. The water adds depth. It is a tropical area. It's a small island. If you, like, I can understand the complaints probably in something like Sun and Moon, you know, because they're small islands, but you can't really swim that much on the water compared to here. But I think it's great because it adds more than just land exploration. It adds onto the sea exploration. It adds onto the character of this region. I think that Gen 3 is one of the peakest games ever in that version. A lot of cities are great. Like the molten ash in the grass, the water travel, the different like gyms. There's the the town. Oh my god, it's lost my mind. But it's basically tree houses. You know, the bases inside stuff like bushes and trees, and it's just, this region is amazingly structured. It's amazingly made. It just has so much character going for it. Ore and the other side regions. For those 12 of you who are scratching their heads and confused on what an Ore region is, Ore is the region of Pokemon Colosseum and XD, side games for the GameCube, which technically are their own kind of Pokemon games. They have you going on a quest, they have you beating an evil team, they have you exploring a region. But it takes on a different measure where it's completely focused on the evil team and their shadow Pokemon. That concept you see in Pokemon Go, that came from these games. The Ore region appears in two games, Colosseum and XD. Then there's also the third game developed by the same people who made these, I've been mispronouncing it. It's Genius Sonority. So, this is editing banjo, just cutting in. Genius Solarity, or whatever you pronounce it, which was Pokemon Battle Revolution, which takes place in Poketopia. I count this as its own game because it has you going through little kind of gym challenges. And you could even send an Electivire Magmortar from this game, like how you can send the Shadow Pokemon you purified from the previous games. But the Electivire Magmortar are not shadowed, they're just behind a secret code. Now if we were to classify more side games, really, that would be like Stadium and Stadium 2, where Stadium takes place in Kanto, but I said earlier, I won't count it. It's my video, so I make the rules. And then there's Stadium 2, which takes place in White City, which I forget where that is completely. But there is many other Pokemon side games, but really, their locations aren't important besides the 3 from Genius Solarity, because they're kind of their own area. Now if you want to count the stadium things, whatever, you can add them to my previous video and you can count them, okay? The previous part of the video, alright? Note in the side regions area, I barely talked about much of it, but I'm just going to say, Ore is a great region. I actually think it's great. And Poketopia is limited in terms of any kind of exploration because it's barely locked to a little map menu where you go into your challenges, but I still think it's great as well. Sinnoh and Hisuian. In Generation 4 we have Sinnoh, which is one of the cult favorite regions and is my favorite region. Now, y'all might say, kind of basic choice, but my favorite regions used to be Kalos, because that was the game I came back to in Pokemon, which X and Y, because I kind of stopped playing for a bit, and I played Black and White too much. I never got through them. The important thing about Sinnoh is, it was my first region of my first Pokemon game, of the first video game I've ever played. It's amazing. Sinnoh has amazing towns, like Pastoria City, with the Great Marsh and all that. It has a great concept with all this different like, it's all in swampy areas, and you think, hey, I know this region because of the Great Marsh. And I love how they kind of made, was it Krogunk, their basic mascot. And I was like, so much charm to these cities. The areas around them is amazing. Some of the city's design are brilliant. The music was amazing. The Pokemon, some lackluster, but has my favorite Pokemon, Kricketune, from. Sinnoh is just a region that I hold dear and always will love and cherish, even in the crappy BDSP remakes. But then we also had Hisui, which is prehistoric Sinnoh, which was amazing. The issue with Hisui is being that it was one big kind of town, and it's just big exploration thing. But there was all these campsites, and it's amazing getting the context of how a region started its civilization and how Pokemon and humans came together. Sinnoh and Hisui are something special, something amazing. They're something that no other region has, and they are my favorite region because of that. I'm also going to say, if you bring up the fact that I'm doing this for nostalgia factor, no, I just love these regions overall. We also appear in Sinnoh 6 times, forgot to mention. Those games being, of course, as most people know, the Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, and Legends Arceus. Unova. Unova is one of the peakest regions. It is very well designed, and it has great amount of, let's just say, locations that you can explore, depending if you're playing Black or White and Black and White 2, which are the 4 games that Unova appears in. But basically, Unova has some of the best towns and cities, like Castelia City, a giant city that looks like New York and has a bunch of NPCs walking through it, making it feel alive and diverse and not like some empty waste of space. Who cannot admit that the visuals of Black and White 2 are amazing in terms of not just how the region looks, but how each and every town is designed. For example, of audio reasons I love it, Driftvale City is a very popular city for its music, and I think that is perfect. There's also I believe a Culamula town. Hello, this is Editing Banjo. I'd like to mention there's actually multiple towns and cities that do this, and not just a Culamula town. There is multiple, and I mean multiple. So from this point forward, when I'm talking about a Culamula town, I'm also trying to talk about other towns that do the exact same thing. It is a great area where if you go talking to a bunch of people who are playing certain musical instruments and different, there's someone singing and all that, it adds to the theme of the city, I believe. It adds up every time you talk. If you talk to each one person, and as you walk around, it kind of goes to a union of people singing and playing these instruments together. Unova has amazing looking areas, as I've mentioned before, with the way that it visually looks, and it tries to have these 2.5D to 3D graphics integrated with the pixel art. It just makes it look phenomenal. Personally, Unova is amazing, and I see why so many people love Black and White and Black and White 2. Kalos. X and Y are the only games that Kalos appears in. I have a soft spot for Kalos, as I didn't really play much of Black and White and Black and White 2. And I kind of took a hiatus actually from Black and White 2, so I never played it until in the recent years. So X and Y was kind of the game I came back to. And I like the region by the way it designs, and I'm gonna admit the game is extremely faulty, it's way too easy. It looks amazing though, in my opinion. I love Lumiose City, and it comes with my favorite grass types there. But in general, okay, Kalos is awesome, but it can be bland, and I can see where people talk about that. When it hit the 3D games for the mainline Pokemon games, the design aspects of regions started to differ. Don't get me wrong though, Kalos is pretty cool, like Lumiose City and the countless different areas. There's the glittering cave and the Pokemon village. There's all these locations that generally are quite interesting, but looking back on it, I've kind of just have a bit of a soft spot for this region, and now kind of putting it into perspective, it's not the best, but it's good. It's not bad, I will say that much. Alola. The Alola region appears in 4 games: Sun, Moon, Ultra Sun, and Ultra Moon. These games take place in a region that I'm kind of not that much interested in when I first got into the game, but I got to admit I actually have a lot of good memories with this region. One issue is it's very long to go through this game, so I spent a lot of time in this region 4 separate times, and well, Ultra Sun and Moon are known to be one of the longest games to speedrun in terms of the mainline Pokemon games. But anyway, this region's great. It kind of splits up into multiple islands, so you're not stuck on one small big island. You have so many different places instead of gym battles. You got these kind of totem Pokemon with the totem trials going on, and some of them take place in forests, some of them take place in volcanoes, some of them take place it's just everywhere. The caves, everything is suited and is really interestingly designed. One of my favorite parts is the Ultra Space, which is technically, even though it's not Alola, it's a part of the Alola region, with the Ultra Moon or Ultra Sun, depending on your game, will have this wormhole. I think it's only Ultra Sun and Moon, where you get to travel through time and space after you've beaten a Necrozma, and you get to catch a different amount of Pokemon. And I'm just thinking that it's very expansive, and there's quite a lot to do. There's the little online Pokemon thing, so like if you're here to play online and battle and trade, there's like this big castle area. And in Ultra Sun and Moon, there was this whole thing with Rainbow Rocket taking over, and then they took over the Aether Foundation, which, by the way, I forgot to mention, the Aether Foundation has a lot to do. So yeah, Alola is a great region, but it's just super long. Galar. Galar. Galar, my least favorite region. Yeah, as much as I played Sword and Shield and now a lot of hours into it, I don't like Galar. Maybe it's something the fact that quite a lot of the locations feel bland and non-interesting. Is it maybe that the DLC was the best part? I had to pay extra content on top of the €60 game. It was infuriating, but nonetheless, Galar has some cool things, I'll give it that. Like there's the wild area, or oh god, I can never remember what it was called, the big open area where you catch all your Pokemon. It just feels boring and doesn't really feel as well executed as I hoped it would be, as they kind of do perfect it later on. This is the first game they do this with, but I'm gonna say that a lot of locations, Hammerlock and all that, don't really stand out to me as a cool. These stadiums are peak design though. Absolutely love the stadiums where the gym battles happening, and who can forget the best gym music? Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. But anyway, Isle of Armor, Crown Tundra, they're alright. I kind of find Galar to be my least favorite region out of all regions. Editing Banjo here, I forgot to mention that Galar appears in 2 games of Sword and Shield, with also their DLCs of Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra, which means, yes, the first games with DLC and all of that. So there, it appears in 2 games and a DLC. Paldea. Oh, okay. Is this the last one? Oh, please. Please be the last one. Yes, it is. Paldea. Okay, people don't realize this. I've been working on this video for the past 3 weeks, and I'm very tired of working at it. Mainly due to the fact that I couldn't really come up with a lot of good stuff on how I'm making this video enjoyable. At the same time, I'm working on my own YouTube shorts, looking to help others with their YouTube shorts, and, well, basically just helping my channel grow and live streaming. I'm also working on my video where I talk about my trip to Edinburgh, where I went to a holiday, and I was going to do like a video, like a vlog video. But anyway, let's talk about the games. Let's get this over with, alright? Paldea is the latest region from the games Scarlet and Violet, which also have their own DLC coming soon, just like Sword and Shield did. Paldea is a buggy mess. Now don't be wrong, it has amazing design concepts. Look at Mesa Goza. It has beautiful designs. Some of the places like Area Zero are awesome. But it feels empty. You're walking around a constant land full of 15 to 20 Pokemon, but the Pokemon are bugging out. You're bugging out. The town's bugging out. When you go to a town, NPCs just are a bunch of lines of code. They walk around, after a while they disappear. You can't enter buildings besides shops. You can't enter anywhere that isn't a shop. Pokemon centers are just basically, well, you know, they're just big stands. They're not shops anymore. So they don't count as a building entering in. And some of the shops you enter don't even have interiors. They just have the exterior, and then they open up a menu where you like select food. I'm sorry, but this is so far my second least favorite. Like, I love a lot of design concepts that this region has brought, but it also annoys me because if Game Freak worked on this better, maybe this game wouldn't be a buggy mess. Maybe we would have gotten a lot more content, and maybe we would have to rely on a DLC, extra paid content, just to see if they can make this game more expansive. This game has so much history of lore inside of it that it's amazing, and so many characters that are really well developed, like Arven, like single-handedly one of the best rival characters ever. That is how I feel about these games. Hey everybody, Mr. Banjuti here, just to say thank you for watching this video, and thank you all for the support since I've come back to content creating. I was a bit stressed making this video, but hopefully you enjoy it and all the future videos that come after it. Goodbye.